find somebody else to blame. And in the United States, it's unfortunately the case for well over a century and a half, that it's always easy to blame the yellow peril. So blame the World Health Organization, blame China.
We continue our conversation with world-renowned political dissident, linguist, and author Noam Chomsky as President Trump cuts U.S. support for the World Health Organization and deaths surge in the United States to another record high. We'll also talk with Professor Chomsky about conditions in Gaza, the rise of authoritarianism around the world, and the progressive response. Then, a new policy at New York City's public hospitals requires medical workers who call in sick to produce a doctor's note. We'll speak with a nurse at a Bronx hospital.
And we know that we're at the very tip of the iceberg.
We'll speak with Bronx nurse Sean Petty, who's organizing yet another protest today. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Deaths from COVID-19 in the United States surged to another record high Thursday, nearly doubling to surpass the previous record set just a day before. 4,591 U.S. residents died over a single 24-hour period, with another 31,000 newly confirmed coronavirus cases across the U.S. Worldwide, over 145,000 people have died of COVID-19, according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. At the White House, President Trump Thursday outlined federal guidelines for states to reopen their economies, saying it was up to individual governors to decide when and how to relax social distancing measures.
Some states are not in the kind of trouble that others are in. Now that we have passed the peak in new cases, we're starting our life again. We're starting rejuvenation of our economy again in a safe and structured and very responsible fashion.
Trump told governors in a conference call Thursday, quote, "You're going to call your own shots," reversing his claim Monday he has total authority to tell states when and how to open. Medical professionals say it's far too early to reopen schools, businesses, and large gatherings without spawning a new surge in COVID-19 cases. They say a massive increase in testing and contact tracing capacity is needed before social distancing measures can be relaxed. Here in New York, health officials reported another 606 COVID-19 deaths Thursday, bringing the statewide death toll to more than 12,000. But the number of hospitalizations continues to fall, suggesting New York has passed its peak of coronavirus infections. As of 8 p.m. this evening, New Yorkers are required to carry facial coverings whenever they leave their homes and to wear masks when social distancing is not possible. In South Dakota, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is investigating one of the largest pork processing plants in the world, where cases of COVID-19 related to the factory have surged to over 730. The Smithfield plant in Sioux Falls, it's now the biggest single coronavirus hotspot in the United States. The mayor of Sioux Falls has ordered residents to shelter in place after the Republican governor, Kristi Noem, refused to issue a statewide remain-at-home order.
I don't know if I'm saying
in California, Providence St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica suspended 10 nurses who refused orders to treat COVID-19 patients without N95 masks and other personal protective equipment. In Michigan, where protesters Wednesday defied a ban on gatherings to protest at the state capitol, Republicans have introduced bills to strip Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer of her power to order residents to maintain social distance. Whitmer has promised to veto the legislation. In Washington state, Boeing says it'll begin bringing 27,000 workers back to factories to resume production of airplanes. It's the first large-scale attempt by a U.S. manufacturer to resume operation.
I don't remember what name you went by.
The Small Business Administration said Thursday it's exhausted a $349 billion emergency loan fund. The Paycheck Protection Program will no longer accept new applications unless Congress approves additional
bad
funding.
performance.
Treasury
I tried
Secretary
to play
Steve
duos
Mnuchin is seeking
yesterday,
an
and
additional
it's really
$250 billion for the program. Democrats want to
We were
expand
landing,
any new relief
Agent
measure
Z.
to include $100 billion for healthcare
Like half the
providers
time, the
and
agency doesn't
$150
even
billion
load in.
for
So like,
state,
I have to
local,
sit.
and tribal
I
governments.
can't even land.
Banking
And then when I
giant
try and disguise,
USAA,
it
which
like
serves
lags
former
out, and I
military
get
members
stuck
and their
and
families,
glitched
said
out of the
Thursday it'll
disguise.
no longer
It's
seize
terrible.
the
It's the
stimulus
worst.
checks of people with negative account balances.
And we still got like third
USAA's
place
reversal
once.
came after the
I don't
American
know, like
Prospect
seventh place,
reported
a couple-
on
I
a
don't know.
disabled veteran
We didn't play
whose
for very
family had
long.
$3,400 in CARES
This was
Act
super annoying
payments
trying to play that game
rerouted
when
by the
it
bank
fucking
to
doesn't
pay
even work.
an outstanding debt.
So,
ProPublica
I don't know
reports
about-
landlords in Georgia, Oklahoma,
play
Texas, and
League
Florida
now?
have flouted a
Oh,
ban
nice.
on evictions passed by Congress
Yeah, I
last
would-
month. Says the
streamers
true
have
number
trouble
of
with
evictions
brain
is likely
drops and
far
stuff,
higher
so
because
it's
there's no
unacceptable.
nationwide database of eviction filings. In New
It
York,
doesn't even
Governor
provide
Andrew
a
Cuomo refused
competitive
Thursday
play
to commit
field,
to
you know, you
providing
can't have a
emergency
competitive
relief to
game when it's
millions
not
of
a fair
undocumented
game.
immigrants living in New York after
and also the
California
whole
announced
controller
one-time
thing, you know,
payments
too.
of up to
Controller kids
$1,000 per immigrant
wrecking
household.
people.
When you are broke,
Yeah, I don't blame you.
it would be
What about, do you think about
irresponsible to do
Valorant?
these things.
Do you
I
think you might
do
try Valorant?
hope and believe the federal government should have a more inclusive
I
policy.
linked my Riot
Let's keep-
account to Twitch so that I have a chance to get
Well, we're
I
looking
do-
at it,
I
but
do
we
watch
have
people
real
play
financial
Valorant.
problems
Like,
right
Middle
'cause
class
I've played
Americans
Counter-Strike ever
from
since
falling
the
into
very
poverty.
beginning
He added, quote,
game.
low income and
Like,
poor people face
in the very
far
betas,
higher
like in
risk from the
1999,
coronavirus due
I
to
was
chronic
playing
neglect and
Counter-Strike,
discrimination,
when it
and a
very
muddled
first
corporate-driven
got
federal
started up.
response
I wasn't
has
at-
failed them, he
I think
said.
it was beta 4 that
The
I started
for-profit
playing
health insurance
Counter-Strike,
giant
so.
United Health Group reported profits grew by over $160 million during the first quarter of
yeah, I
2020 as
suppose I will
demand for
try
non-essential
to-
medical treatment plummeted while coronavirus hospitalizations
I will
surged.
try to play Valorant
United
if
Health
I
reported virus. In other words, they're
venture in
thriving
game.
during a pandemic,
Just
Potter
got
said.
to this new
A
area.
report by two grassroots
like a
workers' rights
desert
organizations suggests
area.
coronavirus cases in U.S. Amazon
another
warehouses
town that I
will
need to try to
likely
get to.
exponentially increase in the coming days as the corporation
Got
refuses
Boat,
to shut
Bell,
down some of its
Spikes.
facilities, even when workers test positive for COVID-19. More than half of Amazon's 110
Crafting
warehouse
mission.
facilities in the country have reported cases of coronavirus.
go, Reigns,
Meanwhile,
that's what I need.
Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos has told shareholders he now wants to test all employees for
Oh, I could get the boat
COVID-19.
really easily,
Despite the
too.
economic
So I can
crisis
warp
triggered by
right
the
there.
pandemic, Amazon's stock continues to climb, lifting Bezos'
You think you'll
personal
try
fortune
Valorant?
to
Are you trying to
nearly
get a beta key?
$140 billion.
Good luck if you
In
are.
related news, Amazon
You have
has
to watch
shut down
streams,
all
though,
of its
to-
warehouses in
to get a
France
key.
after
What
a
I might
court
do is,
ruled
like, I
Tuesday
might
the
just, like,
company needs to
put a
reassess the
Valorant
safety
stream
of its
on
workers
my
during
Twitch
the
and
pandemic.
put it on mute before I go to bed.
China's revised the death toll from COVID-19 in
Maybe I'll get
Wuhan
a key
upward
that
by
way.
50%, saying nearly
looks pretty fun,
3,900
though.
people have died since the novel
Like,
coronavirus first emerged in Wuhan, a city
it's
of
just
11
a lot
million
of-
people late
it's
last
pretty
year.
high
The
learning curve,
the
you know,
revised death
because you
toll
have to
came
learn
as
about
China
all of the
reported its economy shrank
champions and
6.8%
what they all
in the
do,
first
you
3
know.
months
Some
of
of 'em are really
2020,
dangerous.
ending nearly 50 years of
like
uninterrupted
the ice
economic
healer
growth.
chick, and then
In Brazil,
the
far-right
dude
President Jair Bolsonaro abruptly
fire
fired Health
dude,
Minister Luis
yeah.
Enrique
I
Mandetta
don't know
on
all their
Thursday
names.
after Mandetta repeatedly urged Brazilians to
Nice.
practice social distancing
So,
measures.
in this
Bolsonaro,
game-
who's a staunch ally of President Trump, has
You have
dismissed
to, like, get these
COVID-19 as a
special
fantasy and a little flu. Bolsonaro
you,
has
like, complete
repeatedly
each
ignored
region.
stay-at-home orders issued by Brazilian governors,
I'm going
joining
for those
political
right away.
rallies and shaking hands with constituents. At his
Where to
Don't think
here,
that we
and
are
then
going to
I'll
escape
just
a
have to
sharp
swim a
rise in
short
cases
ways.
of this disease. The health system
might
is
even
not
just
yet
get the.
prepared
I
for
might
a
even just
surge
get
of
this
cases.
first. Let's get that. Let's try
Nearly
that
9
first,
out of
actually.
10 beds in Rio de Janeiro's public emergency facilities are already
I might
full,
wanna
even though coronavirus
sleep. Yeah,
cases
let's
aren't
sleep.
expected to peak until May or
Make it
June.
daytime.
In Guatemala, Al Jazeera reports rural and indigenous communities are increasingly afraid of the
But yeah, I've just
potentially
been grinding in
devastating
this game,
impacts
'cause I'm
coronavirus
like the
could
only
have on their
person that
people
streams this
as they
game.
question whether the country's
I like
already
playing
troubled
it,
and
so I
fragile
figured I might
health
as
system is
well
able to
just,
adequately desperately respond to the
keep
coronavirus
streaming and
outbreak.
see if I can get
In
rid
South
of
America, hundreds of Venezuelan migrants attempting to return home
just
after
need to
losing their
talk to
jobs in
Mayana.
neighboring countries say they're being housed in squalid and crowded
Yeah, it's pretty
quarantine
cool.
facilities where they're afraid coronavirus could
There's
rapidly
a
spread.
co-op
In
game,
Chile,
too.
as the country
You can-
remains in a nationwide
you can invite
coronavirus
people to your
lockdown,
group,
anti-government
do
and
the-
anti-austerity
do the
protesters
adventuring
are continuing the
co-op
movement
style.
from inside their homes using social media.
So,
Each Friday night, quarantined Chileans stand in their
7
gardens or
a.m.
balconies,
now,
banging pots,
next
demanding
day.
the release of people arrested during recent
can do.
mass protests.
Kitty, what are you
Nigeria's
doing?
National Human
Yeah,
Rights Commission
he's
says
ripping on his
security
new-
forces have killed at
my
least
cat is
18
ripping
people
on
while
his
enforcing
new,
social distancing
little
measures
ripping
aimed at
post
stopping the spread of the
that I got him.
coronavirus.
I had to put a
That's more
big
than the
weight,
13
like
deaths so
a,
far attributed to
lifting
COVID-19
weight.
across
I had to
Nigeria.
put a
The
weight on
Commission
the base of
documented
it
over
for-
100 incidents
for
of
him
human
to
rights
not be able
violations
to
in 24
not
of Nigeria's
be tipping it
36
over
states.
when he tries it.
In Puerto Rico, protesters in cars rallied
So,
Wednesday outside the island's
just listening to the
government-funded
news,
public
this is kind of
television
my stream
station
in the morning. I just
WIPR,
listen to the news and then
denouncing
play
what
this
they
game.
called propaganda produced by Governor Wanda Vasquez about the coronavirus
the news is
pandemic.
only an hour long,
Protesters also demanded more COVID-19
Try to stream
testing
for
on the
about 4
island.
hours.
Elsewhere, emergency medical workers held a protest that is
And it's like Quake in
catastrophic for
Unreal.
children around the world. With
But
1.5
Diabolical is
billion
looking pretty
affected
good.
by
Same
countrywide
close
school
beta
closures,
on the
millions
Epic
losing access to
launcher.
school meal programs, and widespread disruptions to
not up
maternal
right
and
now,
newborn
but
care. This
should
is
be
UN
coming
Secretary
up.
General Antonio Guterres.
Reduced household income will force poor families to cut
So I'm
back on
excited about
essential health
Diabolical.
and food expenditures, particularly affecting children,
Yeah,
pregnant
Morpheus, you
women,
got it.
and
There he
breastfeeding
is.
mothers.
Hey, buddy.
Polio vaccination
Yeah.
campaigns have been suspended.
There he is on
Measles
his tower.
immunization campaigns have stopped in at least 23
know.
countries. And as health services become overwhelmed,
Maybe I should move over a
sick
little
children
so
are
they
less
can
able
see
to
the
access
cat
care.
better.
With the global recession gathering pace,
Has died from COVID-19. She became a student at Harvard in 1954 following
go
the
into the
Supreme
other
Court's
region
historic
here,
ruling in Brown v. Board of Education, joining the cohort as
Oh,
part
look
of
at
only
that.
a handful of women and
Island
the
in the
only black
sky.
woman. Fenwick was 87
Now we're
years
back in
old.
the Angkor Desert.
Renowned
We lost
Chilean
our
author
reins.
Luis Sepulveda, who in the
the other
1980s fled the military dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet, has
have to run
died
up here.
from COVID-19. Sepulveda is celebrated for his literary work depicting life in South America. He was 70 years old.
Kind of making me dizzy.
Vice News
going up the
reports
mountain.
Michigan's former Republican Governor Rick Snyder knew about toxic levels of lead in Flint's water supply as early as 2014, some 16 months before he claimed to have learned of the contamination during sworn testimony
is
to Congress.
huge.
Vice also
Caves in
found
it,
Snyder was
everything.
warned about the dangers of using the
There
Flint
it
River
is.
as a water source a year before the water
There's
switch
also
even
a
occurred.
sky
The
whistle
water
spot
corroded
here.
Flint's aging pipes, causing poisonous levels of lead to
Yay.
leach into the drinking water. Michigan has admitted the switch claimed 12 lives, but a PBS
If I had a
investigation
sky
found the
whistle,
true toll might
I could
be
play the
far
whistle
higher.
here and it would take me
And
up
the
to
state
that.
of Alaska has put surgical
thing.
abortions on a list of medical
We'll just have to
procedures
make
that
a
could
mark.
be banned during the coronavirus pandemic, claiming abortions are not essential and that the measures will conserve
back for
personal
later
protective equipment
to
for
try to
healthcare
do that.
workers. The Alaska chapter
Now
of
what I
Planned
can
Parenthood
do-
has called the new rule shameful, an
Let's go
attempt by
here.
local officials to exploit a public health crisis to restrict abortion
Yeah, this game is
access.
fun because
and those are
it's
some
like
of the headlines. This is Democracy Now! DemocracyNow.org.
In a lot of
the
RPG
quarantine
games,
report. When we come back,
the focus
we
is on
continue
progression
our
and
conversation
getting
with
better
world-renowned
gear, you
political
know, and
dissident,
leveling
linguist, and author Noam Chomsky,
In
and give
this
his
game,
response to President Trump's cuts to U.S.
I'm gonna
support
turn
for
this
the
down a
World
bit.
Health Organization. He'll also talk about conditions in Gaza and the rise of authoritarianism around the world and the progressive response. Stay with us.
There we go. Oh, look at that. Look at this. Nice. Just got some purple shoulders out of the bottom of the ocean. But yeah, I was saying in a lot of RPG games the focus is on progression, but in this game, oh okay, you gotta go. Well, thanks for stopping in. Good to hear from you. Glad you're still out there. Have a good day. But yeah, as I was saying that in this game the focus is more on adventuring like the efficiency with which you adventure and explore new areas. So it's pretty fun, like the problem solving involved. Like the way that I always try to get the reins
5, 4, and 3 by the influential
how you do that,
saxophonist Lee Konitz,
how you go about
who died
doing
in a
each
New
region
York
really
hospital
makes a
at the
big
age of
difference in how
92
quickly it goes.
from complications
How
related
easy it
to
is, you know.
COVID-19. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. The Quarantine
So yeah, it's
Report.
pretty
I'm
fun.
Amy Goodman.
Yeah,
The
thanks
death
for
rate
stopping
from
in,
the
Newman Picard.
coronavirus pandemic continues to accelerate,
Maybe we
with
can play some
worldwide confirmed deaths
Fortnite
topping
sometime.
145,000. In the United States, deaths surged to another record
Or
high
League or
Thursday,
Valorant, who
nearly
knows?
doubling to surpass
I've never
the
tried
previous
League, but
record
I'd be
set
willing
just
to
a
give
day
it a shot.
before at 4,591. U.S. residents died over a single 24-hour period. Well, today we continue my conversation with Noam Chomsky, the world-renowned political dissident, linguist, and
Go
author of
Noam.
more than 100
Noam's my
books.
boy.
He's a laureate professor in the Department of Linguistics at the University of
So somewhere
Arizona,
here,
Tucson,
just
and professor
allegedly-
emeritus at Massachusetts Institute of Technology,
dad
where he
my dad
taught
would
for
always say
more
that
than
word,
half a
allegedly.
century. Professor Chomsky joined us
Allegedly, he's
last
a
week from his
police
home in
officer.
Tucson, Arizona, where he is
always use
sheltering
that
in
word.
place with his wife Valeria.
Allegedly.
We spoke just after President Donald Trump foreshadowed
All right,
this
where the
week's
heck are
announcement
these
that he would
reins
cut
at?
off U.S. support for the World Health Organization.
see
This
that.
is Trump addressing reporters last
Freedom
week.
reigns.
Is the time to freeze funding to the
Freedom reigns.
WHO during a pandemic?
Oh, there they are.
No, maybe not. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but we're going to look at it.
You did say.
We give a tremendous more than I said we're going to look at it. We're going to investigate it. We're going to look at it.
Can you talk about what he's threatening to do right now? First, they reject the WHO tests that would have been critical, and now saying they're going to
right,
defund the World Health Organization.
Well, this is typical behavior of autocrats and dictators. When you make colossal errors which are killing thousands of people, find somebody else to blame. And in the United States, it's unfortunately the case for well over a century.
Just gonna mark up all the spots that I see
century and a
before I
half,
start
that it's
exploring.
always easy to blame the yellow peril, the yellow that are coming after us. We've seen this all through my life, in fact, way before. So blame the World Health Organization.
And when I get there, I
blame
will
China,
unmark
claim that
them.
the World Health Organization is
Just makes it easier
has
to
insidious
track.
relations
I don't
with
need to
China
mark
and
stuff
probably
like that.
working
It's
for
pretty
them. And
obvious.
that sells to a population that's been deeply indoctrinated for a long
But yeah, what I can do
time,
now,
way
since I
back
have
to
the
the
boat,
Chinese Exclusion Acts in the 19th century.
go
to say,
around in
yeah,
the
those
ocean
yellow
part of
barbarians
this
are coming
region.
over to destroy us.
get all the
that's
nodes,
almost
get all the
instinctive.
stuff that's out there, you know.
And
Get all this.
and it's backed
That
up
looks
by
like a
the
sky
echo
whistle spot
chamber.
right there, yeah.
So,
there's sky whistle.
You know,
These are
say
all
Rush
shrines of light, the
Limbaugh,
little white squares.
science is one of the four corners of deceit, along with media, academia, one of the others. But they're the four corners of deceit. They live on
Noam
deceit.
Chomsky knows about.
Keep driving that into people's heads. They say, why should we believe anything?
It's funny.
Why should we believe the news? It's just fake news. They were all trying to
Yeah,
destroy
see, we can
our
try to do this
savior,
here.
our president, the greatest president ever. It's I'm old enough to remember
Love
as a
you,
child listening to Hitler's speeches over the radio, Nuremberg rallies. I couldn't understand the words, but the tone and
All right,
the
so
reaction
this
of the
looks like-
crowd, the adoring crowd, was very clear and very frightening.
Another town there.
We know what it led to.
Treasure.
It's hard to, it comes to mind at once when you listen to Trump's ravings in the crowd.
The
I don't
ravings.
suggest that he's anything like Hitler. Hitler had an ideology, horrible ideology, not only massacring all the Jews and 30 million Slavs and the Roma, and conquering much of the world, but also an internal ideology. The state, under the control of the Nazi Party, should control every aspect of life, should even control the business community. That's not the world we're in. In fact, it's almost the opposite. Business controlling the government. And as far as Trump is concerned, the only
hopefully the news is at a level that doesn't overpower the game or my voice now.
That's the ideology.
I turned it down a bit.
As I am smart enough
Let me know if you're watching. Let me know what you think.
the real masters pour money into the pockets of the very
This
wealthy
looks like a
in the
fun area,
corporate
though.
sector, and they'll let you get away with your antics. It's pretty striking to see what happened.
All right, is that enough tagging? Have we tagged everything?
This January, that's the meeting of the people who are called the
Close.
masters of the universe.
Here's another
CEOs
tower.
of major corporations.
We're not done
big
tagging.
media stars and so
Not
on.
done.
They get together in Davos once a year, congratulate each other on how
Now we're
wonderful
close,
they
I
are.
think.
Put on a pose of dedicated humanists, couldn't do, just totally devoted to the
Well,
welfare of
that's
the people of
pretty
the world.
obvious
You're
there, but
safe
whatever.
leaving your fate in our
Excuse me.
hands because we're such good guys.
That kind of looks like
Trump
something
came
there
along
too.
and gave the keynote address. They don't like Trump. His
Oh
vulgarity
shit! Look
is
at all that
incompatible
lore
with
there.
the
There's
image
so
that
much
they're
lore.
trying to project of
Like all these
cultivated
round things are
humanism.
lore
But they
spots.
wildly applauded him.
That's so much.
Lustily applauded every word.
Wow.
Because they know that
That's
he
ridiculous.
does
1, 2, 3,
recognize
4, 5, 6,
which
7 lore
pockets
spots. in
you
the
have to
ancient ruins
fill
of
with
Udar.
dollars and how to do it. And as long as he does
And we're gonna go
that,
do it.
as long as he serves
right
his
now.
major constituency,
All right, where are we at?
they'll let him get away.
Yeah, I
with
tagged it up
antics.
pretty
In
good,
fact,
didn't
like
I?
it because he mobilizes a crowd that'll back
Angkor
policies
Desert.
like his
Yeah, this game is
legislative
dank.
achievements.
I love
Main
this
one
game.
is a
It just doesn't get old.
tax scam that
Just keep playing it.
pours money into the hands of corporate coffers
Hmm.
and harms everyone else.
So,
The deregulation is great for business.
what do we
They
want
love
to do
it.
first?
They can destroy the environment and harm people as much as they want. Very harmful to the population. You cut back on pollution constraints, on auto emission
there's that, okay.
regulations. What happens? People die of pollution, of mercury poisoning. The
So
waters
that's
are
that way.
poisoned.
We're down here
And
at
the world,
Bartles Grove.
is facing disaster.
Do we have any?
You're accelerating the disaster. As I said, even in the February 10th
All right, let's
budget,
go over here and do
while
this.
cutting back on
That's what we'll do
protection
first.
against diseases in the midst of a raging pandemic, increases funding for fossil fuel production, which is going to destroy us all. Of course, a lot more money for the Pentagon and for his famous wall. That's the world we're living in. Here, not everywhere. As I said, the Asian countries
So yeah, now that I have
acting
these items, I can move
sensibly.
around super
New Zealand
fast.
actually seems to have killed
I don't have the
also.
glider yet, but I
Taiwan's
don't
doing
think I'll
very
really
well.
need it a whole lot.
In Europe, Germany has maybe the
Actually,
lowest
glider is
death
pretty
rate in the
nice
world,
in
and Norway as well.
Oh, shit,
There are
those all-
ways to raise your hand to heaven. I'm the chosen one. I'm your savior. I'm gonna
I wonder if
rebuild
this is
America,
anything.
make it great again for you, because I'm the servant. I'm the loyal servant
Checking
of the
this
working class
rock
and so
out
on.
here. Looks
Meanwhile, with the
suspicious
other
to
hand,
me.
You're stabbing them all in the
Let's
back.
climb this thing.
To carry this off is an act of political genius. You have to recognize that serious talent is involved, whether intuitive or
Some Deadlands. That looks pretty cool,
Conscious
huh?
it's devastating. We've seen
Pretty
it
cool
before.
colors. Look,
We see it
look at the
now in
water, how it goes from like teal
dictators
to
of
purple.
autocrats,
Very nice.
sociopaths who happen to get
Maybe I
into
should try to
leadership
get a-
positions. And it's now happening in the richest, most important country in world history.
So you have this situation in the United States where the economy has been brought to a standstill because of the absolute catastrophe of this
Try to get a
pandemic that people have to isolate.
Photo.
Although isolation is a luxury.
Cube World photo
For
time.
so many essential workers, they have to come out into this pandemic and face enormous threat to their own lives.
Right there.
If you
Okay.
can talk about whether you see this pandemic perhaps threatening global capitalism overall or shoring it up.
Oh, there we go.
And how the trillions of dollars
how do I
that
do
are
a-
being put into these
I don't even know what my
stimulus
screenshot
packages are going to simply
See.
intensify
Alt plus
inequality
F1.
or actually going to help people at the bottom.
Okay.
That's a choice, not an inevitability. I mean, the corporate sector is working hard to plan for a future
Alt plus
of the
F1.
kind that you're describing.
Oh, you know
The
what? I need to
question
get rid
is
of my
whether Popular
camera.
organizations will be able to impose enough pressure to make sure that this doesn't happen. And there are ways. Take the corporate
Okay.
that you just described. The
Alt plus
corporations
F1.
right now are
Yeah, there we
hiding
go.
their copies of
Well,
Ayn Rand
shoot,
and rushing
Chompers
to
is
the
not in
nanny
the scene,
state
is
and
he?
asking
There we go.
for,
That's a better. That's a
to
better
be,
one right there.
for benefit
There's-
profits have been
Okay.
going sky high. They've been indulging in an orgy of stock buybacks.
Indulging in an orgy of
Devices
stock
to
buyback.
Increase the wealth for the rich shareholders and for management, while undermining
Okay. Here
the
we go.
productive
Chompers and
capacity
sore leg.
of the enterprise at a huge scale, setting their offices somewhere in
Vroom,
a
vroom.
a
The
little
boat is
room
super
in
fast in
Ireland
this
so they
game
don't
for some
pay
reason.
taxes using
It's like
tax
faster
savings.
than the other
This is not small
methods.
change. This is tens of trillions of dollars robbing the taxpayer.
It's faster
Does
than
that
hang
have
gliding,
to
I
be the
swear.
case? Take the
It definitely
current
is.
giveaway to corporations. It should be accompanied by conditionalities, a term we're familiar with from the IMF.
Huh.
They should be required to ensure
I'm gonna go up the hill and
that there
check
will
out
be
what
no
whatever
more
this is. It might
use
be really
of tax
easy.
savings.
Might
There
as well
will be
do it
no
while we're here.
more stock buybacks.
We should be
Period.
pretty well
If they
geared
don't
for
do
just
that,
about any
with a firm guarantee,
mission
no
except
money
for the
from the
gold,
public.
the legendary
Is
ones.
that
Oh shit, look
utopian?
at this guy.
Not at all.
Look
That
at him.
was the law, and the law was enforced up until Ronald Reagan, who turned on the spigot.
Annis, the possessed rockling.
That's liberty. Liberty means rob the public massively by things like tax havens and stock buybacks.
Ouch.
So there's nothing utopian about this condition.
Iraq Bart's handsome
Let's go
silver.
back to a period of pretty much regimented
What did this guy give
capitalism,
us?
which developed
Food?
since
Alright.
Roosevelt was carried through
We'll eat it.
till the 70s when it began to erode.
Steve, whatever
with
food the
Reagan.
monster
Just
dropped
ended.
for us.
There should be further conditionalities. Germany,
Stream
for
because
example,
it's the
there
try
should
it
be a
said
requirement
streaming
that they
or
guarantee
broadcast
a
to Twitch
living
failed
wage,
every time I tried it.
not just minimum wage, a
So
living wage, taking a failing lethal system and turning it into a monstrosity. But the roots were before
plus
him.
low.
Just
Plus
think
rain.
back to the reason why the pandemic occurred in the first place. Drug
Making an
companies
elixir of
are
sanity.
following capitalist logic. They don't want to do
Do I need
anything.
cactus potions?
The
Certainly.
neoliberal hammer
Okay.
says the government can't do anything the way it did in the past.
So that was the altar of Gala.
Then comes along Trump.
Just a green
and
fight
makes it
mission.
incomparably worse. But the roots of the crisis are pre-Trump.
Oh yeah, I gotta
Same with the
remember
healthcare
to.
system. Like we know that everyone knows should know the basic facts. It's an international scandal. Twice
What the heck, Laura?
the costs of comparable countries, some of the
Maybe
worst
she's watching.
outcomes.
Hi, Laura.
The
You are
costs
watching.
were recently estimated by a study in The Lancet, one of the world's leading medical journals. They estimated that the cost,
She
the
messed my
annual,
friend Laura messaged
annual
me this
cost to
morning.
Americans are
I didn't notice
close
until
to
like
half
half
a
hour
trillion
afterwards
dollars
because I was getting
and
coffee,
68,000
getting ready to
lives
stream.
lost. It's not so small.
And
World-renowned
haven't heard
political
back from her.
dissident, linguist, and author Noam Chomsky. When we come back, he'll discuss conditions in Gaza during the pandemic
she's doing
and the rise of
okay. She's
authoritarianism
coughing a lot.
around the world and the progressive response. Stay with us.
Cabeza, rodilla, muslos y cadera, cabeza, rodilla, muslos y cadera, cabeza, rodilla, muslos y cadera, cabeza, rodilla, muslos y cadera.
Desde pequeño quería ser beisbolista, no llegué así que aprendí a batear hits por encima de una pista, voy a tomar alcohol en mi
What's up, Rockies? Rocky boys. Going down. That's right.
El estrés me tiene enfermo. Hace 10 años que no duermo. El aire, aunque en la calle me reconoce, ya ni mis amigos me conocen.
Heck
Estoy
yeah,
triste y me
3 of
río.
them.
El concierto está lleno, pero yo estoy vacío. En la industria de la música todo es mentira, mijo.
Y'all wanna play? Wanna go? Go time.
Queda lo que tengo, no sé pa' dónde voy, no sé de dónde voy.
The Puerto Rican rapper Residente performing the quarantine edition of his new song Renee. This version includes his mom and about 30 other musicians who joined him from their homes. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the
where are we
Quarantine
going?
Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As we return
Going
to
over
part
there.
2 of our conversation with Noam Chomsky, world-renowned linguist, political dissident, and author, I asked him about Gaza, one of the most
we have
densely
the glider
populated places
mission?
on Earth where at least 15
think we
cases
do,
of
do we?
13 cases of COVID-19
We have
have been
spikes,
reported.
but no
The
glider.
World Health Organization reports there are just 87 ventilators for Gaza's 2 million residents. Nearly 300 cases and 2 deaths have been confirmed in the West Bank. This is Professor Chomsky.
Yeah. I
If
should
you
try to
can
go over to
talk
this.
for a moment in the West Bank.
Check things out. I kind of
what
wish I
it
did to have the
means
glider.
for a place like Gaza, called by the UN and people around
But
the
we're
world,
gonna use our boat.
a kind of open.
The land access
Now,
stuff.
Gaza is 2 million people who are in living in a
I like desert
prison,
regions.
open-air prison, under
There's usually a
constant
lot to
attack.
do, but it's not too difficult. to,
Israel,
like,
which is
find
the occupying
stuff,
power,
you know,
recognized by everyone in the world except Israel,
'cause visibility
Israel
is
is
good in the
imposing,
desert.
has been imposing very harsh
4243, the Angkor
sanctions
Desert was
ever
settled by
since
War
the
Marines.
Palestinians made the mistake of carrying out Israel's policy, as was
As you can see, this
explained by
scout
the
gets a
Vice
lot
Glass,
of
the person
mobility.
in charge of the withdrawal of Israeli troops, withdrawal of the settlers, and imposition of the new regime. Explained frankly, we are putting the people of Gaza on a diet, just enough to keep them alive, meaning wouldn't look good if they all die, but not anything more than that. So not a piece of chocolate or a toy for a child. That's out. Just enough to stay alive. If you want
Luea,
to
the
have a
cultist.
serious
Go
health
Luea.
problem, maybe
War
you can
Marines.
apply to go to the
Aha, what is
hospital
this?
in
What have we here?
East
Some
Jerusalem.
suspicious looking
Maybe
witches.
after a couple of weeks he'll be allowed to go.
White
Or
witches.
maybe a child is allowed to go, but his mother's not allowed to come. If the
Oh,
pandemic-
she knocked
there
me
are
down.
now a couple of cases in Gaza. If
Those
that
witches.
extends, it's a total disaster. International institutions have pointed out that by 2020, it's,
Thank
Gaza
you.
will probably become barely livable.
Another fight mission.
95% of the water.
So nothing major there, just chance to loot. Oh.
And Trump has made sure.
Which reminds
that
me,
it'll
I
get
do have
worse.
an upgrade here.
He withdrew funding
There we go.
from the support systems for Palestinians.
Need
in
better chest
Gaza and
armor.
the West Bank.
Other than that, I'm looking decent.
Killed the funding.
Oh, hey.
Palestinian hospitals.
These
killed the
guys
funding.
That, those guys just kill my...
Praising him.
Oh, okay, there's
They
Azric.
weren't
She's okay.
respectful of the God.
Alright.
So therefore, we'll struggle.
Okay, see ya, Azric.
Even when they're barely surviving under a harsh and brutal regime. Incidentally, this
I think I'm
is
gonna...
about as far as Israel finally began to set up a few drive-by testing sure that the intended results would follow. They announced it only in Hebrew, not in Arabic, so Palestinians wouldn't even know. Well, that's within Israel. In the occupied territories, far worse. And the Trump hammer came in saying, we're not even going to give you a penny because you're not respectful enough of me. I don't know how to describe this kind of thing. I can't find words for it.
In response to this pandemic. For example, in the Philippines, where the authoritarian leader, Trump ally Duterte, talks about killing people. The massive crackdown without support of the people of India, 1.3 billion people with Narendra Modi. President Trump was in India as the pandemic was taking off, never saying a word about it, packing a stadium of 100,000 people.
I should be able to kill him.
You have Orban, Hungary, who is now ruling by decree. What would it take
leftovers.
to turn that around to be a progressive
Gold left. Oh,
response?
here's more loot over here.
Well, actually, what's happening, to the extent that you can find some coherent policy in the madness in the White House, one thing does emerge with considerable clarity, namely an effort to construct an international of the most reactionary states and oppressive states led by the gangster in the White House. And this is taking shape. I can run through it, but since you mentioned India, Modi, who is a Hindu nationalist extremist, is systematically moving to destroy Indian secular democracy and to crush.
Yeah, deserts are a really good place for mining.
Kashmir
in general.
is horrifying.
Easy places to do mining.
Worse.
Finding mushrooms.
You can almost describe it as genocidal. Modi gave, I think, a 4-hour warning saying
special
total lockdown.
Boss slime.
Over 1 billion people.
We got ourselves a boss slimer.
People in the informal economy, huge number of people, are just cast out. Go walk back here, 1,000 miles away, die on the roadside. This is a huge catastrophe in the making. Right on top of the strong efforts to impose the
Alright, which way am I going here?
Overwrite,
it kind of looks like it might be something about me.
The doctrines that are at the core of
this is the base of the rock here that I'm
what's
at
happening
right now.
Quite
I'm
apart
at the base
from
of this rock.
India, in fact South Asia generally, is going to become unlivable pretty soon if current climate policies persist. Last summer, the temperature in
think there's anything
Rajasthan
up there?
went up to
We're gonna check it
50
out.
degrees centigrade. And it's
Possible.
increasing.
And we're right here.
Hundreds of millions of people in India that don't have access to water. It's going to get much worse. Could lead to a nuclear war between the two powers that basically rely on
keep
the
on
same
trucking
water
here.
resources, which are declining under global warming, Pakistan and India. I mean, the horror story that's developing is, again, indescribable. You can't find words for it. And some people are cheering
Waiting for
about,
Laura's
like Donald Trump and his friend Bolsonaro in Brazil. They don't get much publicity, but I think it's this coming December, there'll be a formal announcement of what has been in progressive movement in Europe.
Get wrecked, hobbies.
Varoufakis and Bernie Sanders came out with a declaration calling for a progressive international to combat and we hope overcome the Reactionary International, based in the White House. Now, if you look at the level of states, this looks like an extremely unequal competition. But states are not the only things that exist. If you look at the level of people, it's not impossible. It's possible to construct a progressive international based on people, ranging from the organized political groups that have been proliferating, that have gotten...
Oh yeah, I'm listening to Democracy. She does ask questions from time to
in
time.
most impoverished areas
Most
of
of the
Brazil,
time,
for example. And even this
he knows what he
astonishing
wants to say.
fact that I mentioned, that the murderous crime gangs are taking responsibility for bringing some form of
There's one of the
protection against the pandemic in the favelas, the miserable slums in Rio. All of
I don't
this is
think I want to do that.
happening on the
Well,
popular level.
Let's do it.
Expeditions. If they do that, there's a chance for a progressive international. And notice, bear in mind that there
And
are
then there's the
also
other one right there. So maybe
striking
we can get both
cases of
towers done.
internationalism,
That'd be really cool.
progressive internationalism at the
It's a
state
mana tree
level.
right there.
So take a look at the European Union.
Definitely a mana tree.
Rich countries in Europe, like Germany, have recently given us a lesson
Sand
in just what the
hoarders.
union means. Right?
Oh,
Germany's
this
managing
chasing us.
pretty
I
well.
guess
They
we're in a
probably
fight.
have the
We're
lowest
fighting.
death rate
Let's
in
go.
the world. It's an organized
You too.
society.
All of ya. This
Right
way.
next door, northern
You
Italy
too. Chillin'.
is suffering
Might as well make
miserably.
it worth my
Is Germany
time
giving
here.
them any aid? No.
Oh,
In fact,
you too.
Germany even blocked the effort to develop Eurobonds. Germany, it can look across the Atlantic
So it's done.
for aid from the superpower on
Anything?
the Western Hemisphere,
I
Cuba.
don't think so. Oh well.
Cuba is once again,
Here we
as
got some
before,
slimmers.
exhibiting extraordinary
Let's
internationalism,
go slimmers.
sending doctors to Italy. Germany won't do it, but Cuba can. China is providing material aid. So
They
these
wrecked
are
my pet.
steps towards progressive.
Going to
Gold
Tucson,
deposit.
Professor Emeritus at Massachusetts
In the
Institute
bath.
of Technology, where he taught for more than half a century. Noam Chomsky joined us last week from his home in Tucson, Arizona, where he's sheltering in place with his wife, Valeria. Go to our website at Democracy
wanna
Now!
go
to
that
see
way,
part
but
one of our conversation.
caving,
When
but
we come
we
back,
got
a new
better things
policy
to
at
do.
New York's public hospitals requires medical workers who call in sick to produce a doctor's note. Stay with us.
Tellen's Tower. Well, right off the bat, we can just go like this.
By Bill Withers. The legendary singer-songwriter Bill Withers died last month at the age of 81 from heart complications. We were showing during that music break nurses dancing around the world to give strength to each other, themselves, and their patients. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. The Quarantine Report.
Bill
I'm Amy
Withers.
Goodman. We end today's show here in New York City, where the death toll from the coronavirus has passed 11,000.
Sectoids.
Every night at
This
7
looks like it
p.m.,
could be a really
workers
easy
take
one,
to
like
their
a
balconies,
blue-level
fire
tower.
escapes windows to cheer for medical
Like a
workers and
3-star
other
tower,
essential
or
workers on the
4-star
front lines
maybe.
of the crisis.
Oh, what is he?
But
Let's,
inside
power
the
up here.
hospitals, medical staff are continuing to fight for their basic rights and protections while on the job.
He's blue.
After
Okay,
a
we
weeks-long
got
effort
this.
demanding more personal protective equipment, New York City health workers now have a new challenge ahead of them. A new policy at the city's public hospitals that requires medical workers who call in sick to produce a doctor's note. The directive was sent out Friday by Health and Hospitals Corporation, which runs the 11 public hospitals and has lost
Get
at
right
least
up
5
on it.
nurses to COVID-19. The memo, which was first reported on by news outlet The City, reads in part, quote, in In some places, we have also identified very high rates of call-outs and absences that do not appear to be consistent with patterns of COVID infection. Unquote.
So that was a really easy one. I'm glad we
Many
came up
workers
here
say
to
the
do
policy
that.
puts an
Even
unnecessary
dropped a
and
golden thing
dangerous
for us.
burden
Oh
on
shit!
already
Look at
overworked
that!
and at-risk staffers who are showing up
Whoa!
every day to treat the
Orland.
sick. This afternoon, nurses from Jacobi Medical Center in the Bronx will rally
Damn,
outside the hospital.
look at that.
We're joined
Kubo
now
Ricks.
by an ER
Kubo
pediatric
Ricks, we got
nurse,
his,
Sean
we got
Petty,
Kubo
who
Ricks'
helped organize
chest
today's
armor.
protest. He's a member of the board
And
of
it is a
directors of the
dandy.
New York State Nurses Association.
Wow, look at that
Sean,
regen.
it's great to have you back with us. Can you talk about
Nice.
this latest memo and the conditions you're facing in your
So now we're
hospital?
4-star. Yeah, we might as well go up and get this.
You know, it's hard to describe
shrine.
the roller coaster that we've been on over
That's
the last
silver
month.
there.
And,
we need it.
I think
We need
we're
that
just
silver.
reaching a point in the last week where we're able
Yeah,
to
desert
breathe
regions
a
are the
little
place
bit of
to
a
go
sigh of
for
relief.
mining. Definitely.
You know, it seems like the COVID cases are
Wow.
slowing into our
That's
emergency
hurt me.
rooms. We're becoming more successful at extubating patients and keeping patients alive.
Bats.
And we're
Green
able,
bats
at
are
Jacobi,
hurting
we're
me.
able
What the heck?
to get transfers from other hospitals that have been overburdened. So we just are breathing a sigh of relief.
Didn't expect them to do any
And it's
damage.
given us a
with their
moment to
attacks.
pause and think about just how traumatic and devastating this last month has been for our lives. We've lost coworkers, we've lost family members, we've lost other loved
Oh.
ones. Our families and our communities have gone
All right,
through
so Talon's
probably
Tower,
one of the most traumatic months of our lives.
now,
And
it's just
we
more
have
back
gotten
here.
sick by the thousands. And so this last, just as we are
then
able
we
to
have
take
a
a
short
breath and
ways to
think
go
about all
over to
this
the
and process it,
Ocean.
getting this kind of treatment from administrators in our hospital system who sit safely behind desks and who look at spreadsheets.
We're gonna go all the way zoomed out all the way on
That is,
our character.
a major
This is pretty wild.
dishonorable, disrespectful
Here we go.
act.
Let me get some facts out there. The Guardian reports, quote, the number of healthcare workers who have tested positive for the coronavirus probably far higher than the reported tally of 9,200. U.S. officials saying they have no comprehensive way to count those who lose their lives trying to save others. The Centers for Disease Control released the infection tally Tuesday and said 27 health worker deaths have been recorded based on a small number of test result reports. Officials stress the count was drawn from just 16% of the nation's COVID-19 cases. So the true numbers of healthcare infections and deaths are certainly far higher.
Yeah, we have to get a doctor's note for every single time we decide to stay home for whatever we're experiencing. Whether that we know that COVID-19 symptoms can last for over a month and can come on and off. We know that being exposed and working in these challenging conditions exacerbate already pre-existing conditions which nurses suffer, whether that's migraine, headaches, diabetes, other health conditions.
Big Slimer.
We know that people just need a mental health day.
Oh, I do have my attack bonus on.
We know that thousands of us have been
Get back,
exposed.
you.
We've never been. Healthcare workers are the least tested group of people in this city.
Now, this is a critical point, Sean. If you can explain what you're talking about. So they're saying you need a doctor's note, but if you're at work and you don't feel well, can you demand a test?
We currently, as of last week, can finally get
another one.
testing as healthcare workers. But for the last month prior to that, we have been denied those tests.
Okay, here we go.
So the thousands of
Grooming and Zoom.
the thousands of healthcare workers, the 77% of our members who have been polled, who have been exposed to this coronavirus for the past month prior to this week, this last week, we have not been able to get tested. So they have no idea
This game is wild.
who is actually COVID positive
What's
and
going
who's
on
not.
here?
Their
Whoa.
actual reported numbers, whatever they're looking at on.
If you are showing symptoms, I mean, we already know that it seems that you're most contagious in the 2 days before you start showing symptoms. So for God's sakes, if you're showing symptoms and you're going to be up close with patients, treating them,
And that's been the problem from the beginning, is that every single policy that's been implemented by the federal government, the state, the city, has been based on shortages, not based on science.
Keep getting distracted.
You have a situation where this policy is based on shortages.
I might mark.
It's not based on science. So on the one
it's
hand,
an interesting
we have
area.
Our system telling us,
special mobs.
We need to make sure you're actually sick. You need to go get a doctor out into the world, expose yourself, be exposed by other people, and obtain this unnecessary paperwork.
Let's go get that.
In a context where we have already been exposed, in some of the most profound ways.
So you're protesting today outside Jacoby in the Bronx?
Yeah, we've tried to go the official route. We've been talking to high-level officials at the city for the last week, expressing our concerns, telling them exactly how we feel about this and exactly what this means to nurses who have given everything to fight this virus, who have given their entire physical and emotional lives to fight this virus over the last month, and what this means to us. And exactly what's wrong with their accounting of the situation, and they have still refused to budge. We've talked to them practically every day for the last 5 days, and they still have not listened to us. So we have to speak out in a more loud and
good chance
Sean,
for
I wanted to
loot
quickly
here.
ask you about an issue that de Blasio raised, the mayor of New York, and many others: the horror of the hundreds of people daily who are dying at home. So many of them undocumented immigrants. De Blasio said something like 200 to 300 people a day, when the average before was something like 25. Even afraid to go to hospitals because they might need items or something like this. You're in the public hospital system, the hospital system of last resort, often first resort for the poor. A final comment on this.
Well, the public health system is the most critical piece of infrastructure in this country, and we have the largest public healthcare system left in this country after decades of public health systems being eroded. We are the only healthcare system that guarantees healthcare for undocumented immigrants. And so to continue these policies that will exacerbate our staffing crisis, will demoralize our nurses, if we're going to set up a healthcare system,
10 seconds.
If we're going to set up a healthcare system in the wake of this crisis, our sacrifice needs to be respected, and we need to be able to recruit and retain a robust healthcare staff after this crisis is over. So
we have to leave it there, Sean. I want to thank you so much for being with us. Sean Petty, registered nurse in the Pediatric Emergency Room of Public Hospital in the Bronx, member of the Board of Directors of the New York State Nurses Association. I want to end with this tweet from Congressmember Ayanna Pressley, who wrote, "Went to get a replacement inhaler today, told me generic is sold out with a wait list, so my only option is one that costs $175. My copay for the other is $10. I can afford the increase, but millions won't be able to. Literally, what folks need to breathe, live, is political," she said. That does it for our show. You can sign up for our daily digest every day. Get the quarantine report in your email. Text the words Democracy Now!, one word, to 66866. Or you can go to our website at democracynow.org and sign up there. Democracy Now! Is working with as few people as possible.
Yeah, in other words, wake the fuck up, conservatives. We're all in this together, whether you like it or not.
We thank all of you, and special thanks to General Manager Julie Crosby. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.
You know, irresponsibility, that's just not true. In reality, we all have responsibility for each other. Yeah. But yeah, it's my rant of the day. Diamond's here. No. That's cool though. Democracy Now! Is over. Hooray for Amy Goodman and all those people. Make that show happen. Only way that I freaking know what's happening out there. Well, not the only way. The main one is to listen to the mainstream news. It's just corporate bullshit. It doesn't have, it's slanted towards All the wannabe rich folks chasing a bullshit dream. Oh, what's this? Okay, we'll take it. It's just a bag of gold there. Random game. I love it. Never know what you're gonna find in this game. This is the most randomest of all games. Well, maybe not. It's pretty out there. Alright, so we have our Shrine of Life. We're not gonna be able to open this. Well, actually we might. Once we get the tower done. If this is a barrier, this is a magic barrier door. Oh, it is. Look at that. So we'll be able to do the tower, hopefully, and then we can come here and get this. More often than not, it's bag of gold instead of armor. Crowmore's Tower. So I'm guessing this one is going to be tougher. Fortunately, we have some decent gear. Better gear. Let's power up though. Possessed Sorcerer. So we going up, chompers. Follow me, buddy, up the stairs. Slimes. Yeah, see, it's purple already. It's gonna be a tough one. There's one more slime. What the heck? There's nothing on this level. Weird. Okay, yep, he's gold. He's gold. Shizzle dizzle. I'm gonna get fried by this guy. This is... Yeah, we can do it though. We can do it. I might want to take an Elixir of Sanity. I'm going to. And an Elixir of Life. Let's do it. Powering up here. And we'll also eat one of these just to top off our health. So what I want to do is jump up, kick him, try to stun him. Alright, stop. So, here we go. You can charge up on this habanero. Ow, he really hurts. Holy crap. Oh my gosh. Bro, you wrecked me. Ow, that hurts. I think it's because of my pet. Little wow, I was so close to dead there. Oh, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go.